Hello, everybody. This is Pamela back again. I thought I would start over this live stream to give you a frank talk about what's been going on here. Over the last weekend or so, I heard about Markie Post's death at the age of 70. Cancer is something that is very personal to me because I lost my mom to that, and I lost a cousin to that, and my twin brother had stage 1 kidney. So, yeah, I take stories of cancer pretty seriously. If you want to hear about Markie Post, go to yahoo.com for all the latest news and info on that. You can look that up on your own time. I'm not going to do it for you today because the more important thing that I want to talk about is the anti-vaxxers that are not for the vaccine. Let's see here. Yeah, they talk about these anti-vaxxers, okay? You know, they don't like Dr. Fauci. They think the shots are more dangerous. Over the last several days, I've seen more and more video come out from so-called anti-vaxxers that are laying in the hospital saying, don't make the same mistake I did. In fact, one guy that they talked about on the news here recently has since died from his COVID-19 situation, but he spent his last hours beating himself up over the fact that he never got the shot. Well, here's a news story that came on. I'm not going to be able to share it with you because the chat feature is acting funny, but I'll get it to you when I can get it to you. But one of the anti-vaxxers, it says here on Yahoo, anti-vax radio host who called Dr. Fauci a power-tripping lying freak dies of COVID. And it says an anti-vaccine right-wing radio host in West Palm Beach, Florida, died on Wednesday from COVID-19 complications. Dick Farrell, who was 65, used his local talk show and social media platform to rail against Dr. Anthony Fauci, who he called a power-tripping lying freak, and say that no one should get the coronavirus vaccine. When COVID-19 sent him to the hospital for 3 weeks, though he changed his tune, urging friends to get vaccinated. Friends told local station KPTV. Farrell wrote in early July, vaccine bogus bullshit. 2 peeps I know got vaxxed, now have corona, hospitalized critical. Thank you, Moderna, for nothing, he quoted. He erroneously told his followers that they did not need the vaccine if they had already survived COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control advised former coronavirus patients to get vaccinated. And they have a highlighted headline here. Texas GOP officials who mocked COVID 5 days before he died of the virus. Let's see. 2 days later, he wrote, why take a vax promoted by people who lied to you along about masks? He called Fauci, and said that the infectious disease expert and power trip libtunes, Democrats, were conspiring to make it seem like the pandemic was ongoing so they could grab more power. This is what that moron said. You know, he said, why take a vax promoted by people who lied to you all along about masks? He called Dr. Fauci, and said that the infectious disease expert and power trip libtunes, Democrats, were conspiring to make it seem like the pandemic was going on so they could grab more power. In late June, he wrote, so you think it wasn't a scamdemic? Not one elected Democrat ever tested positive. He called masks face diapers and face panties. An ardent supporter of former President Trump wrote often about baseless conspiracy theories of election fraud in June. He pinned a fear-mongering post about liberals wanting to remove the American flag, writing Civil War beckons. And I think they have a link to this guy's Facebook. Amy Lee Hare, a close friend of Farrell, wrote on Facebook, COVID took one of my best friends, R.I.P. Dick Farrell. He's the reason I took the shot. He texted me and told me to get it. He told me the virus was no joke and said, I wish I had gotten it. Hare later told the WPTV, I was one of those people like him that didn't trust the vaccine. I trusted my immune system. I just became more afraid of getting COVID-19 than I was of any possible effects of the vaccine. I'm glad I got vaccinated. The deep voice host, whose real name was Farrell Austin Levitt, also anchored for Newsmax after the radio station where he worked, WFLN, sold in 2016, according to friend and station owner George Kalman, who wrote the man's obituary. So there's a video of this idiot, Dick Farrell, who worked for Newsmax, of all places. Farrell's partner, Kit Farley, wrote on Facebook, he was known as the other Rush Limbaugh. With a heavy heart, I can only say this was unexpected. He'll be missed. Farrell's one among several recent deaths of anti-vaxxers who have succumbed to COVID-19 just this week. Republican councilman in Texas fought rapid and fatal bout of the virus, which saw him hospitalized and died within 3 days. He had used his position to advocate against the vaccines and face masks. Again, these anti-vaxxers, they want us to feel sorry for them. But, in truth, I don't. It is something I like to call it's karma. And I'm going to say this again, that when they started talking about COVID-19 and all this other stuff at your doctor's offices, your hospitals, or any other medical office there is, this is something not to play around with. And the sad thing is, there are still people that won't get the shot even after the person gets the vaccine, the disease. When this started almost 2 years ago, this January, it'll be 2 years. I went in for my usual checkups, check your throat, check your back, check your gut. You know how they do all that shit when you go to the doctor's office? Well, when I went in for my physical, and I go to the doctor's, and I usually go and have lunch there at the hospital, which is on the same campus. I've seen all these things about COVID-19 being posted around the hospital. And I thought, uh-oh. You see signs up near the emergency department. You see signs up near where you go to have something to eat. They're talking about this. This is serious. When I get my appointment done, I'm going to get my butt home and wait for a vaccine to come out so I could take it. At that time, I wasn't old enough to get a vaccine. I wasn't quite in the age of 50 and up for that. So I did. And when I was, when it became available, when it came over to the hospital that I normally go to, next to my doctor's office, I went there and got my shot. So I didn't have to wait there in the same area where all the people were getting their vaccines to go home. So I got my shot. I was there for maybe an hour, and then I left, and then I went back home. I didn't go anywhere else. I got both my shots. And you know something? I'm glad I did. Because I don't want to put my family through the aggravation of putting me on a ventilator. I may be 50, but I'm not quite ready to die yet. I wasn't about to play with my life. I may be having family problems with a certain family member, but I'm not ready to die yet. And to these anti-vaxxers, I cannot feel sorry for you. Now, let me go into the highlighted portion of this article before I log off here. It talks about a Republican city councilman in Tulsa. He fought a rapid and fatal bout of the virus that saw him hospitalized and dead within 3 days. Let's see. I think it was the same guy who mocked COVID. Yep. Let me go back to the other one. There's got to be a better one. This one I was looking at is at the Daily Beast, but we won't look at that. Because it looks like a damn ragtag tabloid. But I think they turned off the link to the Facebook page. So, yeah. Let's see. If it takes me back there, then I'll read it. Yep, it's the same thing. This comes off the Daily Beast. A Texas GOP official that mocked COVID 5 days before has died of virus. And it says a GOP official from Texas who regularly espoused anti-vaccine, anti-mask views online has died from COVID-19 5 days after posting a meme on Facebook questioning the wisdom of getting inoculated against COVID. Oh, great. Dickinson City Council member and state Republican Executive Committee member H. Scott Apley died at a local hospital around 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning, according to his GoFundMe set up for the Apley family with expenses. He was admitted to the facility in Galveston on Sunday with pneumonia-like symptoms and was hooked up to a ventilator as his condition deteriorated. His wife was also infected, the family said. He leaves behind his wife, Melissa, who is COVID positive, as well as their infant son, Reed, according to the fundraiser, which has so far raised about $15,000 of its $30,000 goal. Your donations greatly appreciated and will help the family as they will get through this difficult period. My heart is beyond broken for the family, Dickinson Mayor Sean Skipworth wrote in a Facebook post. Scott was a new dad, and this makes us large, especially tragic. Really? Texas Republican Party Chairman Matt Rinaldi said in a statement, "Please join me in lifting up the Apley family in prayer. We will miss Scott deeply, but find comfort knowing that he is at peace in the arms of our Savior." The announcement did not mention the fact that Apley's death was COVID-related. How convenient. Apley was a staunch conservative and devout Christian, but based on his social media activity, Apley didn't believe COVID was going to affect. Let's see. It says he didn't believe that it was going to affect him or his family. In May, Apley posted an invite for a mask burning being held at a bar in Cincinnati, commenting, "I wish I lived in the area." A couple weeks earlier, he posted a news article about giveaways and incentives meant to encourage people to get vaccinated, writing, "Disgusting." Apley railed against so-called vaccine passports, which restrict high-risk activities, such as indoor dining to the fully vaccinated. Recently, he suggested that mask mandates in Germany were akin to Nazism. And when former Baltimore Health Commissioner Leana Wen celebrated good news this spring about the Pfizer vaccine's efficiency, a seemingly outraged Apley called her an absolute enemy of the free people. And let's see what else this says. You know, and they talk about Miss Wen, who talked about great news from Pfizer this morning. Their COVID-19 vaccine is infectious for at least 6 months. Appears to work very well against B1351, variant strain dominant in South Africa. And he replies to her saying, "You're an absolute enemy of the free people." In one numerous Facebook posts on the subject, Apley wrote, Question: if businesses start allowing customers and employees to go mask-free only with voluntary, providing their vaccination record, wouldn't that basically involuntarily identify people who have chosen not to get vaccinated, which might indirectly creating a HIPAA violation? The HIPAA is a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996 and prohibits healthcare workers from improperly divulging a person's private medical information without their consent. It does not apply to private businesses. A bartender asking if a customer is vaccinated, for example, does not constitute a HIPAA violation. On July 30th, a week before he died, Appley reposted a meme on his Facebook page that said, in 6 months, we've gone from the vax ending the pandemic to you can still get COVID if you can get vaxxed. By you can pass COVID on to others even if vaxxed. To you could still die of COVID even if vaxxed. To the unvaxxed are killing the vaxxed. In an interview Wednesday with the Galveston Daily News, Mayor Sean Slipworth said he didn't know if Appley had been vaccinated against COVID. Appley's untimely passing comes as COVID skeptics across the country have died or become extraordinarily sick by either rejecting the constant calls by public health officials to get vaccinated and mask up. In Nashville, a right-wing radio host who reportedly spread the misinformation about the virus and mocked the vaccine is now hospitalized and fights for his life. A Brooklyn woman who called COVID a fraud died after rejecting the vaccine in favor of natural supplements like zinc and vitamin D. The family of a Florida woman who refused the COVID shot and died in June still refuses to get the jab. A Florida track coach who had resisted calls by friends and colleagues to get vaccinated finally agreed to make an appointment for his shots. However, he got COVID a day or two before getting his first dose and dies in the hospital after slipping into a coma, leaving behind his wife and 4 kids. And I think that's all. Let me see here. Yeah, I think that's all it says here. But again, anti-vaxxers are dying at a rapid rate. In fact, I'm going to say something here right now. When I started talking about this some years ago, I knew it was something not to play around with. I came home. I took care of myself. When the shots became available and I got to the right age bracket, I went over to my local hospital. Within the amount of time frame, I got shot number 1, and then some weeks after that, I got shot number 2. I'm glad I did. I did it for my own personal security, and I did it for you. But these anti-vaxxers are getting, I think, what they deserve. If they don't take the shot, then they're running the risk of killing themselves or their family. Just like the right-wing radio host that recently died. I've seen a video of another guy laying in the hospital. And one guy said, well, maybe if he had lost a few pounds, it would have helped him in his breathing situation. And people say, gee, you're a cold-hearted bitch. But, you can't fix stupid. It's like Trump saying, maybe if the weather warms up, it'll just go away. That didn't happen. Dr. Fauci was right about everything. It was going to get a lot worse before it got a lot better. But we didn't meet our goal of having over 70% vaccinated by July. That didn't happen. We were only not even 50% by the time July hit. And now we got maybe 2 more variants out there. We got this one and we got a new one that had just come out. I can't even pronounce it right now. But when your doctor's offices and your hospitals are talking about COVID-19, your news is talking about it, it's nothing to play around with. But hey, if you want to kill yourself and your family, go ahead and be unvaccinated. I'm done caring about these anti-vaxxers. You know, it just comes a time that you have to stop caring about them. They made the choice not to get their shots. You know, I got my shots over a couple months ago, and I'm glad I did. I feel good about doing that. If I still get COVID, it might not be as bad, but I'm not willing to take the risk. So when I go out, I still mask up. I keep my hands clean. I keep as clean as possible. And speaking of that, by the end of the month, I got to go for a colonoscopy. So that should be a load of fun in the next week or so. So by the 26th, I go for my colonoscopy. So yeah, I'm not exactly looking forward to that, but I do it because I know it's the right thing to do for my health. So yeah, I'm not one of those that's willing to play with my health. I'm 50 years old. I still got a little bit of life left in me, probably about another 20 years. And I want to make the best of those years. But unless the anti-vaxxers get off their high horse and actually take a look at the big picture, Dr. Fauci was absolutely right. You know, there's going to be more variants out there, and we need to get ready and combat that. And it's just really sad that there are people that are willing to play with their families' lives because they want to be dumb. And because of that, a radio jock is dead, and one other guy is in the hospital. I don't know if the guy is dead or not, but he was making a plea to everybody, get the shot. This is no joke. And I think back to those little fuckers that were down there in Florida, the spring breakers. Oh, I'm not going to get COVID. I'm not going to worry about it. And one of those punk asses wound up in the hospital saying, take it seriously. You shouldn't have to be at death's door for that to hammer it home. Your doctor's office talking about it alone should convince you, gee, maybe they aren't playing around. And let's think about it this way. If it weren't for science, we'd still be dealing with polio. You know, back long before I was even born, they used to have kids and some adults in iron lungs that never got out of those things. But somebody stood up and said, I'm going to figure this puzzle out, and we're going to get rid of this thing that they call polio. And you know what? They did. They eradicated polio. Just like we want to get rid of Alzheimer's disease, just like we want to get rid of ALS. It's going to take work. But if you want to screw around with your lives, that's on you. But as of now, I wash my hands of these anti-vaxxers. I'm done. I am absolutely finished with the anti-vaxxers. If they want to kill themselves, they can do it on their own time. Just don't do it in front of me. I don't push the issue with my brother because I know he's an asshole Trump supporter. So we're talking about my older brother here. He's the one that's always over here giving me shit about every fucking thing. But, you know, I've decided to live my life by my own rules. And if you're not willing to let me live my life, then you have no right to tell me what to do. Just like I don't have the right to tell you to go and get a shot. But I did it because I actually care about my fellow person. And you're going to have to wait to get the links because the click button on my chat space is not working today for some reason. But please, if you care about your family, you care about your friends, you care about your community, please get your shot. If your doctor's offices are still talking about it, then by all means, get your shot. And if you must go for your cancer checks, please get your cancer checks. That story I told you about Markie post on my other video vlog before I took it down, that was no bullshit. She died Saturday due to her cancer. She's been fighting it for 3.5 years. And another one, Charlie Robinson, died last month. He was also on night court. Look those stories up. I'm going to put up the stories about the anti-vaxxers. You can read them at your leisure. And let me know what you think about anti-vaxxers. Do you think they deserve whatever they get? You know, Some of you are probably going to hate me for this, but I say yes. Because science is what's helped save a lot of lives in terms of the AIDS epidemic, the polio epidemic, and they're even helping fight in the cancer fight. So, yeah. If it weren't for science, we'd still be dealing with polio and some other deadly diseases that we don't even know about. But it shouldn't take you to death's door to finally realize Dr. Fauci was right. The CDC was right. They're doing what they can, and doctors and nurses, from what I heard, some doctors and nurses are walking off the job because they're overstressed. They're understaffed. They're doing what they can to save your miserable life. And those that need elective surgeries can't get the beds because they're all filled up with COVID patients. And I'm bound and determined to never become a COVID patient. Because that shit eats your lungs. Can't you understand that? I've heard about people having to get lung transplants because their lungs were so bad off. But some of them don't even get that chance. They could go from having a mild cough to dead within days. Well, I said what I said on this stuff. You don't have to say anything. I don't really care. I'm on burnout in terms of these damn video vlogs. I don't think they make a heap of difference to any of you. But I did it because I care about my family. I don't care if they're so far up Trump's ass. I'd still take the shot for them. But to the anti-vaxxers, I cannot feel sorry for you. You end up in the hospital, that's on you. You kill members of your family, that is on you, son of a bitch. I'm out. I said what I said, and that's all for today. Take care, and I'll talk to you when I damn well feel like it.